And let's stick with politics. And I want to bring in Versha Sharma, managing editor and senior correspondent at NowThis. Versha, great to see you as always. It does seem like Joe Biden's cabinet picks so far have largely unified Democrats. We remember Joe Biden saying when he was about to announce his Treasury pick that this is somebody across the board that Democrats would be on board with. What's your take on this? Do you feel like progressives and even moderates seem like they're going to get on board with most of these picks?
Yeah, I think that's right. So far, his cabinet picks have been something that appealed to both progressives and moderates for the most part. There are a couple of them where progressive groups feel like, okay, he's not alienating the left, but he's not necessarily catering to them either. Because as Megan said, and you were just discussing, a lot of these picks are middle of the road, moderate folks. But there is a lot of room for negotiating within the Democratic Party and within this administration there. And I think that will continue to be the case. We saw Senator Elizabeth Warren, who some people, it was kind of a long shot, but some people were hoping that she might be a Secretary of the Treasury under the Biden administration. But she came out immediately on Monday and supported the choice of Janet Yellen for Treasury Secretary. So there's a lot of endorsements coming from progressive senators and groups right now of his cabinet picks so far.
Yeah, indeed. And, you're right about the Elizabeth Warren thing. A lot of people, including James Clyburn, even trying to get Bernie Sanders to get the labor gig as well. Do you think that Joe Biden is releasing these names almost in batches in the sense that he knows these ones like Janet Yellen or even Anthony Blinken would be easy to confirm even if it's a 50-50 split, and maybe the more controversial, I would say in quotes, picks might come later, maybe the ones that he might seem have a little bit more of an uphill climb when it gets to confirmation?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, these are also positions that are some of the most important and visible cabinet appointments in an administration. So I think that's also his prioritization and how he's rolling out these announcements. But I do know that everybody is watching these announcements closely, both moderates and progressives within the Democratic Party, and they are ready to push if they feel like they need to push. There's been some talk about appointing Bruce Reed, Biden's former chief of staff, to the Office of Management and Budget, and that's something that House progressives are not happy about. They actually wrote a letter yesterday saying that they hope that Bruce Reed doesn't get this gig because he is a deficit hawk in the past who has overseen cuts to Medicare and Social Security. So I think it's interesting because some of these lesser known administration positions are being closely watched.
Yeah, very good point about Reed right there, because he definitely would be a little bit more controversial when it comes to progressives. There was other big news with Democrats yesterday, and it didn't involve Joe Biden whatsoever. It involved Dianne Feinstein. We haven't talked about her in a long time. Obviously, the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Progressives were really upset with how they viewed her handling of the Amy Coney Barrett Supreme Court hearing. She announced yesterday, by the way, she's 87 years old. She, I think, is the oldest member in the entire Congress. She announced yesterday that she's not going to be seeking another term as the leader for the Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee. What made her decide to do that, and who do you think is going to take over that role, depending upon how the Senate outcome happens in January?
I think Feinstein is actually tied with Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. I believe
yes.
They're both 87. But yes, the 87 is the top end of the age of the Senate right now. So Feinstein stepping down was welcomed by a lot of progressives for the reasons that you just said, because they were not happy with how she handled the Amy Coney Barrett hearings. And now there's going to be a bit of a fight for the top position among Democrats on the Judiciary Committee. There are two top choices. There's Senator Dick Durbin, who is the whip in the Democratic Party, the highest ranking now on the committee after Feinstein, the most experienced. And then there's Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who is seen as a little more of a firebrand, somebody who is ready to take on the court fights, which is what a lot of Democrats want the party to do, given how Mitch McConnell has stacked courts under the Trump administration. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks, because Durbin already has a lot of power in that he has a leadership position already within the party. Senator Whitehouse has said he will abide by how the caucus votes over the next couple of weeks, but there is a big push for Whitehouse to be the one, because even prior to all of this, prior to the Barrett hearings, He's somebody who has been pushing Democrats to focus on the courts for quite some time, and he's got a lot of experience there as well. So I think a lot of people feel he could be an effective top Democrat on that committee.
You mentioned Mitch McConnell. You know, Paul Ryan was at a conference yesterday, and he was asked about President-elect Joe Biden, which he admitted, President-elect Joe Biden, he said those words, which was significant in some ways. But he actually said that he thinks Joe Biden will have a successful presidency if he has a divided government run by Mitch McConnell in the Senate. And obviously he's saying that because he's a Republican. Obviously he wants Republicans to at least control one chamber. But I was struck because we know Joe Biden has a long history and relationship with Mitch McConnell. We forget Mitch McConnell went to Beau Biden's funeral. They've been doing deals for many, many years. Do you think maybe we're going to see a different Mitch McConnell because of his working relationship with Joe Biden? Or do you think Mitch McConnell still will be the obstructionist in the Senate that we've come to know for so many years?
I think McConnell will largely continue to be obstructionist. I do think there's more negotiating room at the table because of Biden and McConnell's longstanding relationship. And unfortunately, I mean, we have to say it because this was something that was a huge part of Tea Party backlash to the Obama administration. Biden is an older white man, like Mitch McConnell. He's not Barack Obama. So there is potential for more movement than there was under the Obama administration. But I think, we can't necessarily expect that or even anticipate it, lean on it. I think the Georgia Senate runoff races continue to be incredibly important for Senate control. Biden can obviously get a lot more done if he has a Democrat majority Senate, but it won't be impossible for him to get some legislation done under McConnell as well.
All right, let's talk about obviously President-elect Joe Biden now also receiving his formal intelligence briefings as well. And again, so weird to say this with the election happening over 2 weeks away. We should note President Trump continues to say he is not conceding this race. That the GSA does not formally decide who the president is. That's according to President Trump's Twitter account. But will this allow now the transition really to pick up pace and most people essentially to start moving on from President Trump?
Yes, that's exactly right. And President-elect Biden has already been making moves even outside of his cabinet and administration appointments so far. They have been preparing policy behind the scenes. I think the biggest issue has been how to move forward with handling of the pandemic, because I think you're going to see night and day approaches to that once Biden does come into office, just with the acknowledgement of reality, unfortunately, like you're saying with, Paul Ryan saying, yes, Biden is the president-elect and this is news nowadays, but that is the reality that we live in right now. So I think this is gonna improve the process. This is gonna speed it up. He wasn't too damaged by the delay. I think it was interesting. Some Bush administration people from 2000 pointed out how he had to wait 37 days before he could start because of the recount and the Supreme Court issue that went on back in 2000. So at least we're ahead on that front. But yes, the fact that it took more than 3 weeks, or just about 3 weeks, for the GSA to formally hand over the keys to the transition team is quite unique in modern American politics.
Yes, unique. Very, very good word choice there. Versha Sharma, always a pleasure. Thank you so much over at NowThis.